This paramotor is electric, this one's gas. Tonight I'm flying the electric and we're gonna talk about gas versus electric and some of the pros and cons that are exclusive to electric paramotors. But before we get into the video, this is an urgent message. This week is the final week to enter our giveaway. Up until May 4th, every $5 spent on tuckergott.com gets you one entry to win this electric paramotor I'm flying in the video today. We have 3 new designs at Risky Biscuits Co., the National Forest, the Adrenaline Addict, and the Topography. These designs will not be reprinted, so this is going to be the final opportunity to pick one up before they're gone. After May 4th, we're going to pick a winner and someone is going to take home this beautiful electric SP140. So once this video is over, make sure you visit the web store and get entered to win.
Alrighty, let's talk gas versus electric. After spending a lot of time flying this electric motor, there's some clear advantages and some very clear disadvantages. And to summarize it, I think electric definitely isn't for everyone, but it's definitely for some people. First up, we have cost. If you guys caught the first video with this SP140, the cost of this paramotor shipped was $7,896.56. A comparable Parajet Maverick, which is a higher-end titanium frame, would be $8,367.76. Something more comparable to this paramotor that has an aluminum frame would be a Fly Products Rider, which is $7,999. So overall, the electric paramotor is actually cheaper than the most comparable gas motor, which is impressive. Also, when we talk about cost over time, that's something a lot of people were curious about because electric is simpler. On the OpenPPG website, they claim that it's 60 cents per hour to operate this thing. And I assume that's just electrical costs, meaning how much it's going to run up your meter, I guess, at your home. However, I don't think that accounts for the battery degrading over time. They do say that this battery will reduce to 80% capacity in 500 cycles. So let's just say it has a lifetime of 1,000 cycles. The battery costs like $2,200. So that's $2.20 per flight if you had to throw out this battery after 1,000 cycles. Versus gas, OpenPPG claims it's $11.69 per hour to operate gas, and that is your gasoline, your oil, which oil is actually, I think it's about $70 a gallon for the 2-stroke oil we're supposed to use, and it also factors in small maintenance items that gas motors have. Actual parts that need to be changed on a schedule, and then there's always, bug hit me right in the face. There's also random stuff that you come across on gas motors. Like the other day, I was just looking at my gas motor and I realized the air filter detached. So that was a $50 part. But I think no matter how you slice it, electric wins in the cost category. All right, let's talk thrust. I think if you look online, the OpenPPG SP140 claims the same thrust numbers as a standard Moster 185. I can tell you from first-hand experience, though, comparing this to my Moster Factory R, which is a hyped-up version of the standard Moster, spinning a comparable 140-centimeter prop, this thing definitely has, I would say, 10 to 20% more power when the battery's fresh. So I'm going to call this a win for the electric paramotor in terms of thrust, because it definitely has more power. The catch is that power fades relatively quickly. Once you get down to like 50% battery, you're noticing that you don't have full power anymore. But when that battery is fresh, this thing is extremely powerful. Let's talk weight. This OpenPPG SP140 claims 75 pounds. I weighed it to be about 78 on my bathroom scale. This is a category the electric is going to lose in. If I pull up my notes, a comparable Moster on a Maverick frame weighs 53.4 pounds empty. Now when we add 1 gallon of gas, which gives us about an hour of flight time, it goes up to 59.4 pounds 2 gallons of gas, 65.4. 3 gallons of gas, a full tank, is going to be 71.4 pounds. So even with 3 gallons of gas in a gasoline paramotor, which gives you about 3 hours of flight time, you're still lighter than this electric paramotor at 78 pounds, which is really going to realistically give you 30 minutes of flight time. So this is definitely a category that the electric loses on. It is heavier, however, I will give it this. The weight is mostly the battery, and it's very close to your back, so that means it doesn't really feel quite as heavy as it really is. Let's talk about flight time. This is the category that the electric has the biggest downfall in. If you guys watch my testing, I got about 18 minutes worst case scenario. I got 29 minutes on this actual glider, which was my average case scenario for myself. And my personal best case scenario, I got 44 minutes, I believe. I will be doing one more test with a larger wing to see if I can break the 1 hour barrier. But if you're not familiar with paramotors, like I just mentioned, on a standard burn rate for your average Joe is about 1 gallon an hour. And your standard paramotor carries 3 gallons. So if you fill the tank, you can fly for about 3 hours. Now legally, you can carry up to 5 gallons of gas, so maximum flight time, which you're never really going to do unless you're trying to do crazy cross-country flights, is going to be 5 hours. Compare that to the realistic expectation of electric being about 30 minutes. Yeah, the gas is far superior when it comes to flight duration. Let's talk about charge time or refuel rate. This particular battery I'm running, which is the big one, takes about 4 hours to charge from flat. Gas, obviously you can pour more gas in the tank and be back up and flying almost immediately. You do have the same capability with this. You can swap batteries, but that's going to cost you. At the price of $2,199, you can have a separate battery, which you can swap very quickly and get another 30-minute flight. So in terms of charge time or fueling up again, the electric is going to lose there. Let's switch gears a little bit and talk about just advantages of electric. Let's look at everything that it's really good at. First off, which is pretty cool, when you clip in, there's no spinning propeller. There's no idling engine. It's just dead quiet. And also, if you go up really high and say you want to glide in silence, go to idle, and all you have is a quiet windmilling propeller. That's pretty cool. Another advantage, obviously you have no gasoline smell. You don't have to worry about stopping at a gas station to fill your can. You don't have to mix oil. There's no smell. There's no mess. You never, I always wipe down my gas motors to get the oil off the prop. On this thing, the only thing you're really cleaning is dust and bug splatters on the propeller. So the next category this thing really shines in, which is unique to electric, is the idea that there should be zero maintenance. You literally have one moving part, which is your propeller, and theoretically, you should never really have to do any work. I tell people if they want to become a paramotor pilot, and specifically a gasoline paramotor pilot, you inevitably have to become a two-stroke mechanic because there is no aircraft mechanic that we have our motor serviced by. You have to service your own motor, which means you have to become familiar with a two-stroke engine. That's where I think there's probably people that haven't gotten into the sport that will get into the sport only with electric because they don't want to deal with maintenance. Kind of on that same topic, you have no starting. There's no pull start. You're never going to be at the field pull starting your engine trying to get it running. You're never going to have to tune your adjustment on your carburetor for a different altitude or a different environment. You're never going to have to warm up your engine before you go fly. All those little hiccups where gas is imperfect, you literally plug this thing in and go. In one of the previous videos, we did show that this thing is quieter, and not only is it quieter, but I think it's a less offensive noise. So if you're in a noise-sensitive area, which I experienced in New Jersey, realistically, people complained about the noise, and we got kicked out of flying sites. I think hypothetically, if everyone was flying electric, there would be a lesser chance that we would get kicked out of sites. Here's another big one, I think, for people that maybe live in an apartment and only own like a sedan car and not a pickup truck. You can store this thing inside, and you can also break it down, hypothetically, to fit in the trunk of your car. And there's no gas smell, so I can see someone that literally lives in an apartment, like this would be their only option. And finally, one that I never even thought of, on a gasoline paramotor, you have to check your fuel level, normally by taking your phone and looking in the reflection like this, or taking a photo of your gas tank, which, you know, you have to think about, and sometimes people don't think about that, and they run out of gas, and then they land out somewhere. On this thing, I have all my information right here in my hand. I'm at 52% right now, so there's really no excuse for you to ever run out of power on this thing, which is a huge advantage. Aside from that, it gives you all the electrical information, your flight time, and your altitude. Now let's talk about the main disadvantages, which we kind of covered, which is going to be the flight time. For me, that's something that a lot of flights I just can't sacrifice. Like, I can't go fly out to those mountains and back on an electric paramotor. The other one being weight. For myself, it's not a big deal. I'm fairly athletic and I have the skills necessary to launch a heavier motor. But for some people, older people, smaller people, they might not be able to sacrifice that. And the last one, which I've never talked about so far, is the risk of fire. And now here's my personal opinion. I never really considered the risk of fire on an electric motor, because I kind of thought, you know, on a gas motor, you're also flying around with a bunch of fuel on your back, and if that ever lit on fire, you'd be screwed. It's one of those things where I feel like in both cases, the probability is extremely low, but the actual repercussions, if it were to happen, are extremely bad. I don't know that one is better or worse probability than the other. I trust that the battery management system and the speed control and everything has been sized appropriately, that the risk is extremely low. Otherwise, I wouldn't be flying it. Here are my overall conclusions. Like I said in the beginning of this video, electric is definitely not for everyone, and I think the majority of people it's not for. It's because of the flight time. I think a lot of people are turned off by the flight time just by itself, and that's the biggest factor of why they're going to wait for newer technology to come out that offers longer flight times. That being said, though, I think it is definitely for some people, and I think those people are, I think, a category of people that haven't gotten into the sport yet, that will get into the sport solely because of electric. I think there's a huge rise in electric vehicles in popularity, Surons, electric scooters, one-wheels, and I think they have a kind of cult following. And I think kind of the same type of people will be interested in paramotoring just due to the electric platform. Dang, that's really good. We got 28 minutes and 30% remaining.
So that's my thoughts on gas versus electric. I was actually really surprised. On a recent Instagram poll, I got 38% of you guys voting for electric and 62% voting for gas. Electric definitely has its advantages. Like I've mentioned before, it's the nicest, smoothest, most linear power plant I've ever flown. And even though it can't compare on flight time, I think it will sometime in the future. Maybe 5 years, maybe 10 years, maybe 20 years, but I think we will all definitely be flying electric someday. Now that the video is over, be sure to visit the first link in the description, tuckergott.com. Check out some of our limited edition designs and make sure you place an order to get entered to win this SP140. It's a sweet prize and there's not much time left, so make sure you go there now. Till the next one, have fun, fly safe, peace.